Titans. You want to know more about them to see if this is the class for you. As a Titan main, believe me, I got you. Heads up everybody, my name is SentinelGray and welcome to the channel. This video is a look into the Titan class and what it can do. So if you're thinking about playing Destiny or just started playing and you want to know what the Titan is all about, stick around. When you look at the Titan class in Destiny, you probably think of a knight, paladin, or like a barbarian from your normal fantasy RPGs, and you'd be about right. Though normally that would mean that if you play as a Titan or any of those classes, you would probably be the tank of the group, if anything. Luckily, Destiny isn't like that, so the normal roles of like tank, healer, and DPS don't really apply. In Destiny, if you have 3 different characters, all have the same stats, but on separate classes, they will all act the same, meaning they will have the same amount of health, mobility, and cooldown time on their abilities. So playing a Titan isn't automatically going to make you harder to kill. Keep that in mind. Now, that's not exactly a bad thing. If you want to run a chunky Titan who is fast as hell and can outrun like a ninja type hunter, I mean, that's purely up to you. But that's not what this video is about. This is not a how to build a Titan video. So let's get to the real meat. Titans, just like the other 2 classes, have 4 subclasses, one of each element in the game. Solar Titans are called Sunbreakers, Void Titans are called Sentinels, Arc Titans are called Strikers, and Stasis Titans are called Behemoths. Now for the Solar, Arc, and Void subclasses, all 3 of them have individual paths or trees that you can pick from that change how the subclass acts and what abilities you essentially have. The Stasis subclass is a bit different, but I will cover that later, don't worry. Let's go over each of these subclasses and what exactly they do in each of these trees so that you get a better understanding of what a base Titan can really do. Overall, the Sunbreaker Titan is all about hammers, and no, I'm not joking. With the 3 trees you have access to, you can either use smaller throwing hammers or one giant ass maul to burn away your enemies. The first tree is Code of the Fireforge, which is known as Top Tree Sunbreaker. This tree has a large focus around using your super ability since 2 of the perks in the tree only affect your super. However, the melee ability for this tree places a debuff on your enemies, which make them take more damage. Use this and immediately cast your super to start throwing hammers, and it's a pretty good way to deal a decent amount of damage to bosses. Plus, all the damage that your allies deal to the debuffed enemy also get increased, so it's best to coordinate with your team before you do this in a damage phase for a boss. Next up is Code of the Devastator, aka Middle Tree. The main thing about this tree is getting kills with your abilities. Doing that will increase your ability damage for a time. The nice part about this tree is that this is the only Titan tree that has a melee with range. Using the throwing hammer for this tree, you can easily kill a few low-level enemies to build up that damage buff, then use your super to capitalize on it when that buff is maxed out. Just remember to pick up your hammer off the ground after you've thrown it. This is also the only tree where instead of using small throwing hammers, you wield a giant maul and spin around like a top, smacking everything in your way. Finally, bottom tree, Code of the Siegebreaker. While you're using this tree, you'll be creating wells of fire called sunspots. These sunspots not only damage your enemies, but also give you a buff when walking through them, boosting your damage and ability regen. This tree is all about giving your abilities back faster, also while healing you with every ability kill that you get. Great for taking on tons of enemies in a crowd control situation, plus with the sunspots dealing damage over time, you can use your super on a stationary boss and just watch their health melt. Next up is the Void Sentinel Titan subclass. With this, you can either be Master Chief from Halo 3 or Captain America, because Sentinel Titans are known as the shields of Destiny. First, let's start off with Top Tree, Code of the Protector. And honestly, the name says it all here. This tree's sole job is to protect you and your allies from damage. Killing enemies with its melee ability provides an overshield, increased reload speed, and melee damage for you and your allies when they're nearby. But the main part of this tree is its super ability. The Ward of Dawn super creates an indestructible bubble for you and your allies. While you're inside the dome, you have an overshield, but merely passing through it gives you a buff to your weapon damage. This is the one abilities that Titans are known for. No matter what you're doing, this bubble is always going to be useful. Next is Code of the Commander, the Sentinel middle tree, and my personal favorite. With this, all of your abilities are able to place C4-like detonators on your enemies. When those detonators explode, any damage they deal place more detonators, having it act as a sort of chain reaction effect. These C4 explosions also give you and your allies ability, energy, and health when near them, so this tree is perfect for a crowd control / support hybrid. And of course, because Sentinel Titans are the shields of destiny, the super for this tree gives you ability to roam around with a shield in hand. But when guarding, you produce an indestructible wall that buffs damage for anybody who stands behind you. Finally, we have the bottom tree Sentinel Titan, which is Code of the Aggressor. Now the name here says it all. If you ever wanted to use a shield to beat the hell out of your enemies, this is definitely the tree for you. Using this tree, you can bash people with your shield using your melee ability, but the main draw is the damage you could dish out with your super. It's not that throwing your shield does a ton of damage, it's more like once thrown, they have a mild tracking ability that makes them bounce between targets, which can really help in clearing out a lot of populated areas. The last subclass with perk trees is the hyper-aggressive Striker subclass. If you ever wanted to be a lightning version of the Hulk, boy, do I have some good news for you. Code of the Earthshaker, or Top Tree Striker Titan, has some synergy that works extremely well. Its shoulder charge melee ability grants you energy on kills, and with this tree allowing you to carry 2 grenade charges at a time, it's a relatively nice combo to have. In addition to that, when using your super ability, you create an electric field on the ground when you use the heavy ground pound attack that the super has. This field deals damage over time to enemies caught in it, something that is extremely useful when you know roughly where enemies spawn in so they can spawn straight into damage. Next is the middle tree, Code of the Missile. This is all about living your superhero fantasy. Its melee ability is essentially a superhero landing with force that absolutely deletes anything around you. The more enemies you delete, the more energy you gain for your super, and after you get up from your superhero landing, you're granted with bonus weapon damage for a short time. Now the super is where it gets its name from. Once you cast your super, you turn into, surprise, a missile ready to slam headfirst into any enemy you want, like Superman. This tree is known for being the only tree for Titans currently to deal a massive amount of damage with just a super alone. Finally, bottom tree Striker, Code of the Juggernaut. When using this tree, you'll strive in close quarters combat. A lot of this tree involves you using your melee an awful lot. With just your melee, you can heal yourself, reload your weapon, and even get bonus weapon damage and stability. So if you're a fan of being up in the thick of things, this is definitely the tree for you. It's worth noting that when using your super ability, you can make it last longer by racking up kills. The more you kill, the longer it lasts. It's that simple. Those are all the subclasses that possess particular trees, and like I said earlier, there's one subclass that doesn't exactly follow this rule. The Stasis subclass is all about slowing or freezing your enemies no matter what class you choose, but specifically for the Behemoth, what you'll be doing is freezing your enemies and then smashing them to pieces. Like the rest of the Stasis subclasses, you have full customization on how the subclass acts and what strengths you want it to focus on. You could focus on creating and destroying stasis crystals to cause damage, or have a subclass fully invested in your ability regen. It's all up to you and how you want to play it, though there are still a few things I think I should mention. The melee ability for the Behemoth doesn't change no matter how you build it. Because of that, the only melee ability you have is essentially a flying punch attack, which can either demolish enemies in one hit, or send them flying into next week. Because of that, you want to be very careful on how you use this ability. You can very easily fling yourself over a ledge completely by accident. For the Behemoth super, you'll basically be having a giant punching glove made of ice. The normal attack during your super are all those lunging attacks that make up your melee ability, while the heavy attack freezes enemies and creates a ton of those stasis crystals for you to destroy later for damage in surrounding enemies. Now beyond the subclasses, there are 2 abilities that Titans have no matter which subclass tree you pick, and that is the Titan Jump and Class ability. The Titan Class ability is called a barrier and can be either used as a straight up wall to make cover in some heated fights, or it can be small enough just to crouch behind and give you a bonus to weapon reload speed. The Titan Jump, however, acts very similar to a jetpack in other games, so depending on how you use it, you can either go for height or distance. So in closing, Titans are an extremely good class for players who want to play a support or crowd control type role. Luckily, because Destiny isn't a game where you just repeatedly spam your abilities, that doesn't mean that's all you can do with a Titan. Remember, a large part of the gameplay in Destiny is made up of using your weapons like a normal first-person shooter instead of abilities like an MMO. Meaning, you're not going to be able to throw grenades or use your melee ability every 4 seconds unless you build your character that way. It's worth to add too that there are a variety of different weapons and armor pieces that can improve or even change the way your subclass acts. So what I've told you in this video doesn't have to be the way that you play each tree. And remember, Destiny is made that you can play practically any class whichever way you want as long as you know how to build it. Thank you everybody so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you are interested in finding out about the other 2 classes, the Warlock and Hunter, please feel free to like the video and subscribe because I should either be having those videos out soon or already have them out, so all you have to do is go on my page and find them. And if you are into live content, I stream on Twitch every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch me there, and I have a link for that in the description box down below. Thank you all so much for watching. I really, really do appreciate it. Remember, keep your heads up and be kind to each other. Bye now.